In the year 2147, humanity had spread far beyond Earth. People lived on distant planets, worked in floating space stations, and traded with alien species from across the galaxy. It was a time of exploration and discovery, but also tension. The Galactic Federation governed this vast network of worlds, but not everyone was happy with its leadership. Many felt that smaller species, including humans, were treated unfairly by the more powerful races. On Lyria 7, a neutral planet known for hosting important meetings, leaders from dozens of species gathered for an interstellar conference. This meeting was supposed to address resource shortages and trade disputes. Among the attendees was Daniel Carter, a human delegate representing Earth. He wasn't famous or particularly influential, but he had a reputation for being honest and thoughtful. His wife Laura often joked that he cared too much about fairness. Today, that trait would change everything. The conference hall buzzed with activity as delegates argued over who deserved what. Aliens, with shimmering scales, glowing eyes, and strange voices filled the room. Some spoke calmly, others shouted angrily. At the center of it all sat the Krillians, a race of insect-like creatures known for their military strength. They dominated most discussions, pushing policies that favored themselves while ignoring the needs of weaker species. When it was Daniel's turn to speak, many expected him to stay quiet or simply agree with whatever the larger powers decided. But instead, he stepped forward, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "Friends," he began, looking around at the diverse crowd. "We've come here today because we believe in cooperation. We believe in working together to solve our problems. Yet, I see something else happening, a pattern of imbalance, where some are given more than they need, while others struggle just to survive." Murmurs rippled through the audience. No one had dared to criticize the system so openly before. Daniel continued, his tone growing firmer. "For years, humanity has accepted unfair treaties. We've watched resources taken from us without question, and we're not alone. Countless species here face the same struggles, but no longer will we sit silently while injustice prevails." He paused, letting his words sink in. Then, he said, something that shocked everyone. "Today, I declare war not against any single race, but against the inequality and greed poisoning our Federation." The room fell silent. Even the Krillians, usually quick to respond, seemed stunned. For a moment, it felt as though time itself had stopped. Delegates exchanged uneasy glances, unsure how to react. Some looked angry, others frightened, and a few even nodded in agreement. Outside the conference hall, news of Daniel's declaration spread quickly. Reporters covering the event scrambled to share the story with the galaxy. Within hours, billions of beings knew what had happened. Reactions varied widely. On Earth, people debated whether Daniel was brave or foolish. Laura, watching the news from home, felt a mix. Back on Earth, the news of Daniel's bold declaration dominated every screen and conversation. People couldn't stop talking about it. Some called him a hero, someone who finally stood up to the powerful species that had been taking advantage of humanity for years. Others thought he was reckless, even dangerous. They worried his words might lead to war, putting Earth and its colonies at risk. The division was clear, and tensions ran high. Laura Bennett, Daniel's wife, sat in their small apartment in Chicago, staring at the holographic screen on the wall. Her hands trembled as she watched replay after replay of his speech. She admired his courage but feared for his safety. Laura knew how much Daniel cared about fairness, but she also knew the Galactic Federation didn't take challenges lightly. Powerful species like the Krillians wouldn't let such defiance go unanswered. As the hours passed, governments around the world began issuing statements. Most distanced themselves from Daniel, claiming his actions didn't represent Earth's official stance. Politicians argued that his words could jeopardize trade agreements and alliances. He spoke out of turn, one official said during a press conference. We must maintain peace, not provoke conflict. But not everyone condemned him. In cities across the globe, protests erupted. Crowds gathered in public squares, holding signs that read equality for all and stand with Daniel. Many felt inspired by his bravery. Among them was a young activist named Mia Torres, who organized rallies in New York. If we don't fight for what's right now, she told reporters, when will we? Meanwhile, on Lyrius 7, the fallout from Daniel's speech continued. The Galactic Council held an emergency meeting behind closed doors. The Krillians, led by their imposing commander Vrax, demanded immediate action. This human has declared war on our system, Vrax hissed, his mandibles clicking with anger. We cannot allow such insolence to go unpunished. Other council members were more cautious. Some argued that punishing Daniel would only make things worse, possibly sparking widespread rebellion. He has supporters, one ambassador pointed out. Acting too harshly might unite them against us. Despite the debate, it was clear that Daniel had shaken the foundation of the Federation. Smaller species, long oppressed by the larger powers, began whispering among themselves. Could this be their chance to push for change? A few even approached Daniel privately, thanking him for speaking up. One of them was Zara Nix, an ambassador from the aquatic Nereid people. You've given us hope, she said softly, her voice carrying a sense of urgency. But you'll need allies if you want to survive what's coming. Daniel nodded, aware of the risks ahead. He also met Ethan Cole, a former mercenary turned smuggler, who had been watching the events unfold with interest. Ethan wasn't the type to care about politics, but something about Daniel's speech resonated with him. I've seen enough corruption in my life, Ethan admitted. Maybe it's time someone did something about it. Together, Daniel, Zara, and Ethan began planning their next move. They needed evidence proof of the Federation's unfair practices to rally more support. Their search led them to abandoned space stations and hidden archives, places where secrets were buried deep. But they weren't the only ones looking. Jack Monroe, a colleague from Earth's diplomatic corps, had been spying on Daniel, believing his actions threatened Earth's stability. Jack leaked information about their plans to the Krillians. The betrayal came swiftly. While investigating a derelict station, Daniel and his team were ambushed by Krillian forces. Blaster fire lit up the dark corridors as they fought to escape. Though they managed to get away, the attack left them shaken. Trust, already fragile, became even harder to come by. Back home, Laura followed the news anxiously, praying for Daniel's safe return. She knew he had started something big, something that couldn't be undone. Whether it would lead to progress or disaster remained to be seen. After the ambush, Daniel, Zara, and Ethan knew they had to be more careful. The Krillians were watching them closely, and Jack's betrayal had proven that even those who seemed trustworthy could turn against them. They decided to change their approach, focusing on gathering evidence without drawing too much attention. Their goal was simple: expose the corruption within the Galactic Federation and show the galaxy the truth. Their first stop was an old space station orbiting a dying star. It had been abandoned for decades, but rumors suggested it held records of illegal activities conducted by the Federation. The station was dark and cold, its systems barely functioning. As they moved through its empty corridors, their footsteps echoed eerily. Dust covered every surface, and the air smelled stale. Zara led the way, her glowing skin casting faint light in the dimness. She was familiar with places like this, hidden corners of the galaxy where secrets were stored and forgotten. If there's anything here, she whispered, it'll be in the data core. We just need to find them. Ethan carried a handheld scanner, searching for signs of intact systems. He wasn't used to this kind of work. His usual job involved smuggling goods, not digging up evidence. Still, he was determined to help. This place gives me the creeps, he muttered, glancing over his shoulder. Feels like we're being watched. Daniel stayed quiet, his mind racing. He thought about Laura back on Earth and wondered if she was safe. He also thought about the people, counting on him, the activists rallying behind his cause, the smaller species hoping for change. He couldn't afford to fail. After hours of searching, they finally found what they were looking for, a data core buried deep within the station's engineering bay. It was damaged, but still functional. Zara connected it to her device and began sifting through the files. What she discovered was shocking. The Federation had been conducting secret experiments on weaker species, testing biological weapons and genetic modifications. There were also records of resource hoarding. Entire shipments of food and medicine meant for struggling colonies had been redirected to wealthy planets. This is it, Zara said, her voice trembling with anger. This proves everything. But before they could celebrate, alarms blared throughout the station. Someone or something had detected their presence. We need to leave. Now, Ethan urged, gripping his blaster tightly. They ran through the twisting corridors, dodging automated defense systems that sprang to life. Laser turrets fired at them, forcing them to take cover behind crumbling walls. At one point, Ethan sacrificed his scanner to disable a security drone blocking their path. That thing cost me a fortune, he grumbled, though no one laughed. Finally, they reached their ship, a battered vessel Ethan called the Stellar Drift. As they launched into space, they could see patrols closing in. For now, they had escaped, but they knew the Federation would come after them again. Back on Earth, Laura received a secure message from Daniel. It contained copies of the files they had retrieved. Her hands shook as she read through the documents. She realized how dangerous this fight had become, but she also understood why Daniel couldn't give up. With the help of Mia Torres and other activists, she prepared to share the evidence with the world. The galaxy was about to learn the truth, and nothing would ever be the same. The evidence Daniel, Zara, and Ethan had uncovered was explosive. It painted a grim picture of the Galactic Federation's inner workings, legal experiments, stolen resources, and blatant exploitation of weaker species. But getting this information out wasn't going to be easy. The Federation controlled most communication channels, and any attempt to broadcast the truth would likely be blocked or twisted to serve their interests. Laura knew she had to act quickly. She reached out to Mia Torres, the activist who had been organizing protests in New York. Together, they devised a plan to leak the files to independent news outlets and underground networks. These platforms weren't as powerful as the Federation-backed media, but they had loyal audiences who trusted them. If they could get the word out through these channels, it might spark enough outrage to force change. Mia worked tirelessly, reaching out to contacts across the globe. She coordinated with hackers to bypass censorship filters and ensure the data reached as many people as possible. Laura, meanwhile, stayed hidden, knowing that her connection to Daniel made her a target. She spent hours encrypting the files and splitting them into smaller pieces, so even if part of the leak was intercepted, the rest would still make it through. As the first wave of reports hit the public, reactions were intense. Protesters took to the streets on Earth and other human colonies, holding up signs that read, "Expose the truth, and no more lies." Smaller alien species joined in, sharing stories of their own mistreatment at the hands of the Federation. For the first time, voices that had long been silenced found strength in unity. But not everyone welcomed the revelations. Powerful factions within the Federation moved swiftly to discredit the evidence. They claimed it was fake, fabricated by humans trying to destabilize galactic order. Some even accused Daniel of orchestrating terrorist attacks. The Krillians, led by Commander Vrax, used the chaos as an excuse to tighten their grip on trade routes and military outposts. Tensions escalated, and skirmishes broke out along disputed borders. Amid the growing unrest, Jack Monroe reappeared. He hadn't been seen since leaking Daniel's plans to the Krillians, but now he approached Laura directly. cornering her outside her apartment one evening. He tried to convince her to distance herself from Daniel. "You don't understand what you're dealing with," he said, his tone urgent. "This isn't just about politics anymore. People are going to die." Laura glared at him, her fear masked by anger. "People are already dying because of what they've done," she shot back. "If you cared about stopping that, you wouldn't have betrayed us." Jack hesitated, then handed her a small device. "Take this," he said. "It's a secure channel. If things go south, and they will, you'll need a way to reach me." Before she could respond, he disappeared into the shadows. Back on the stellar drift, Daniel and his team faced new challenges. Their escape from the abandoned space station hadn't gone unnoticed. Bounty hunters hired by the Federation began tracking them, forcing them to constantly change course. Supplies ran low, and tempers flared. Even Zara, usually calm and collected, snapped during an argument over rations. "We can't keep running forever," she exclaimed. "Sooner or later, we'll have to fight back." Ethan agreed, but had no clear solution. "Fighting means risking everything," he said. "And for what? A galaxy that might not even believe us." Daniel stared out the viewport, at the endless stars. He thought about all the lives affected by the Federation's corruption. Families starving on barren planets, the children experimented on without consent. He couldn't give up, not now. "We fight," he said firmly, "because doing nothing is worse." Unbeknownst to them, the seeds of rebellion were already taking root. Across the galaxy, ordinary beings inspired by Daniel's courage began forming alliances. They didn't have weapons or armies, but they had something more powerful: hope. And hope, Daniel believed, could move mountains. The movement inspired by Daniel's words continued to grow, spreading like wildfire across the galaxy. On Earth, protests became daily occurrences. People from all walks of life, workers, students, families gathered in city squares, chanting slogans and holding up signs demanding justice. Laura played a key role in organizing these events, working closely with Mia Torres to keep the momentum alive. Together, they ensured that every rally had a clear message. The Galactic Federation's corruption could no longer be ignored. Beyond Earth, the ripple effect was even more profound. Smaller species, once too afraid to speak out, began sharing their stories. A group of Nereid refugees released a video detailing how their underwater cities had been destroyed by illegal mining operations sanctioned by the Federation. Farmers from a distant colony spoke about shipments of food meant for them being rerouted to wealthy planets. Each story added fuel to the fire, strengthening the resolve of those fighting for change. But with this growing resistance came danger. Assassins linked to the Federation targeted key figures in the movement. One night, as Laura returned home from a meeting, she noticed someone following her. She quickened her pace, heart pounding, until she reached her building's entrance. Just as she slipped inside, a blaster shot narrowly missed her, scorching the wall behind her. Shaken but unharmed, she realized she couldn't stay in one place for long. Daniel and his team faced similar threats. Bounty hunters were relentless, tracking the stellar drift through remote sectors of space. They managed to evade capture, thanks to Ethan's piloting skills and Zara's knowledge of hidden routes, but it was only a matter of time before their luck ran out. Supplies dwindled further, and exhaustion began to take its toll. Despite this, Daniel refused to give up. "If we stop now," he told his companions, "everything we've fought for will be lost." Their next move was risky, but necessary. Intelligence gathered from rebel networks revealed that the Krillians were planning a major operation, a strike against a human colony on Epsilon 9. The attack was meant to send a message: defy the Federation, and you'll pay the price. Knowing they couldn't let that happen, Daniel proposed an audacious plan: gather volunteers from allied species and defend the colony themselves. At first, few believed they could succeed. The Krillians were among the most advanced militaries in the galaxy. while Daniel's makeshift coalition consisted of farmers, merchants, and ex-soldiers with outdated equipment. Yet something about his determination inspired others to join. Ships arrived from nearby systems, carrying beings willing to risk everything for a chance at freedom. On the eve of the battle, Daniel addressed the ragtag fleet over a secure channel. His voice was calm but firm. "We're not just fighting for Epsilon 9, he said. "We're fighting for every planet, every species, every person who's been told they don't matter. Today, we prove them wrong." When the Krillian forces arrived, they expected an easy victory. Instead, they found fierce resistance. Fighters swarmed around the larger enemy ships, targeting weak points with precision. Ground troops clashed in chaotic skirmishes, where sheer determination often outweighed superior technology. Daniel led from the front, coordinating attacks and boosting morale. Even Ethan, who had always avoided conflict, found himself firing back with unexpected skill. The turning point came when Zara used her aquatic engineering expertise to disable a critical Krillian weapon system. Without it, their advantage crumbled. By the time reinforcements from neighboring colonies arrived, the invaders were retreating in disarray. Though the victory was hard-fought, it proved something vital. Unity could overcome even the strongest foes. News of the battle spread rapidly, inspiring countless others to rise up. For the first time, the Federation's grip on power seemed less absolute, and Daniel knew this was only the beginning.
2 years after humanity walked away from the peace talks, Speaker Zethkar stood in what remained of the Galactic Council chamber. The great room that once held delegates from 200 species now echoed with emptiness. Only 12 species still sent representatives, and most of them came only to announce they were leaving to join the humans. Zethkar's shell had lost its shine completely. Cracks ran along his arms and legs. His antennae drooped like dying plants. He was old, tired, and broken by the weight of his mistakes. "Speaker," said his aide, a young Zethkari named Kliktor, "the human delegation has arrived." Zethkar looked up with surprise. "Humans? Here? I thought they had abandoned us completely." "They request permission to address the council, sir." "Grant it. Let us hear what they have to say." The chamber doors opened, and 3 humans walked in. But these were not the same humans who had left 2 years ago. They moved with confidence and power. Their uniforms were made of materials that seemed to change color in the light. Small devices floated around them, clearly advanced technology that no alien species possessed. The leader was a tall man with gray hair and sharp eyes. "I am Ambassador Greg Patterson of the Terran Federation. I am here to make an announcement." Zethkar noticed that Greg did not ask for permission to speak. He simply took control of the chamber as if it belonged to him. Behind him stood Captain Nicole Reed and Dr. Amanda Foster. All 3 humans looked calm and relaxed, like they were visiting a museum instead of meeting with former enemies. "The Terran Federation formally announces the opening of our protectorate program to all remaining independent species," Greg said. "We offer membership in a new galactic civilization based on efficiency, advancement, and results." A holographic display appeared above the center of the chamber without anyone activating the council systems. The humans had somehow taken control of the technology simply by being present. The display showed a map of the galaxy, but it looked very different from 2 years ago. Large sections were now colored blue, representing the Terran Protectorate. Green areas showed human territory. Red zones marked regions of conflict and chaos. Only small yellow dots remained to show the territories still loyal to the Council. "As you can see," Greg continued, "the galaxy has been reorganized under new management. 87 species have joined our protectorate. They enjoy peace, prosperity, and technological advancement that the Council never provided." Zethkar found his voice. "You are destroying thousands of years of galactic law and tradition." Greg turned to look at him directly. "We are replacing thousands of years of failure." with something that actually works. The holographic display changed to show economic data. Production levels in Protectorate space were up by 400%. Military conflicts had dropped to almost zero. Disease and hunger had been eliminated on 43 worlds. The species that have joined us are healthier, safer, and more prosperous than they have ever been in their history, Amanda Foster said. We have given them technology that extends lifespans, prevents disease, and makes space travel as easy as walking between rooms. At what cost? Demanded one of the few remaining delegates, a Corvan trader named Gexlick. The cost of admitting that humans are better at running a galactic civilization than you are, Nicole Reed replied bluntly. The cost of following human leadership instead of pretending that all species are equally capable. The words hit the chamber like physical blows. For 1,000 years, the Council had been built on the idea that all species were equal partners. Now humans were openly saying that some species were simply better than others. This is exactly what we feared, Zethkar said. Human arrogance and domination. No, Greg corrected. This is what you should have hoped for, human competence and leadership. The display changed again, showing the results of the past 2 years. The regions still loyal to the Council were plagued by war, famine, and technological breakdown. The areas under human protection were thriving. Look at the evidence. Speaker, Greg said, your way has failed completely. Our way is succeeding beyond anyone's expectations. Which system would you rather live under? Before Zethkar could answer, Kliktor stepped forward. The young aide's voice was shaking, but determined. Ambassador Patterson, the Zethkari Republic, formally requests to join the Terran Protectorate. Zethkar spun around in shock. Kliktor, what are you doing? I am saving our people, Speaker. Our worlds are dying. Our technology is breaking down. Our young are leaving to find work in human space. We cannot survive alone anymore. Greg nodded approvingly. The Zethkari application will be reviewed. If accepted, your people will be relocated to worlds better suited to your biology. You will be given work that matches your natural abilities. Your children will be educated in human schools and will have opportunities you cannot imagine. And our culture? Our traditions? Zethkar asked desperately. Will be preserved in museums and cultural centers, Amanda replied. But your future will be as part of human civilization, not as an echo of a failed past. More delegates began to step forward. The Corvan trader bowed deeply. The Corvan Trade Alliance also requests membership, a crystal being flickered its colors in the pattern that meant formal submission. The Nexus Collective asks to join the Protectorate. One by one, the remaining council members abandoned their old allegiances. They had seen what happened to species that refused human protection. They had watched their neighbors prosper under human leadership while they struggled with problems they could not solve. Zethkar found himself alone on the council platform. The chamber that had once been the center of galactic power was now empty, except for humans and species begging to serve them. This was your plan all along, Zethkar said bitterly. You never intended to work with the council. You planned to replace it. Greg smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. Speaker, we offered you partnership 50 years ago when we first made contact. You chose to treat us as junior members who needed supervision. We offered you cooperation 2 years ago at the peace talks. You chose to offer us slavery instead. So yes, Nicole added, we have been planning to replace you, but only because you made it clear that working with you was impossible. Every human colony you thought you knew about was a test, Amanda explained. Every trade agreement was a way to measure your dependence on us. Every military operation was a chance to show you our capabilities. You failed every test. The holographic display showed the final image, a new galactic map. The Terran Federation controlled 3 spiral arms. The Protectorate species were marked as junior partners with protected status. The few remaining independent systems were shown as gray areas marked unaligned territories. The old galactic order is officially ended, Greg announced. The Terran Federation is now the dominant power in known space. We offer protection, prosperity, and advancement to any species wise enough to accept our leadership. We offer nothing to those who choose to remain in the past. Zethkar looked around the empty chamber one last time. 2,000 years of Zethkari civilization had led to this moment. His people, his culture, his entire way of life was ending. Not through conquest or war, but through simple admission that they were not good enough to survive on their own. "What happens to me?" he asked quietly. "You may retire with honor," Greg replied. "Your people will be well cared for under our protection. You will be remembered as the last speaker of the old council, the one who finally admitted that the humans were right." Zethkar's mandibles clicked one final time. "I suppose that is better than being remembered as the fool who started a war he could not win." "Much better," Greg agreed. As the humans left the chamber, Zethkar remained alone with the weight of his realization. The Council had not just made a mistake when they tried to control humanity. They had made the greatest mistake in galactic history. They had treated the most capable species in known space as inferiors and then acted surprised when those humans proved them wrong. The galaxy now belonged to humanity, not through conquest, but through simple demonstration that humans were better at building and maintaining civilization than anyone else. The mistake had been thinking that good intentions and long traditions were more important than actual results. The age of human dominance had begun, and it had started with 3 simple words. Humans walked away. Ambassador Jake Morrison stood in the center of the massive council chamber. The room was so large that he could barely see the far walls. Hundreds of alien beings sat in curved rows that rose high above him. Their eyes watched his every move. Some had multiple arms, others had scales or fur. A few looked almost human, but their skin had strange colors. The air smelled different here. It had a sharp metallic taste that made Jake's nose burn. He had been breathing this air for 3 hours now. The aliens did not seem to care if humans were comfortable. Captain Lisa Harper watched from the viewing area above. She could see Jake, standing alone on the chamber floor. Her hands were tight on the rail in front of her. She had known this day would come. The council had been making threats for months. High Magistrate Veltar rose from his seat at the front of the chamber. He was tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 arms. His voice was cold when he spoke. "Human Morrison, you will listen to the will of the Galactic Council. Your species has been a problem since you left your home world. You do not follow the rules. You build weapons too fast. You ask too many questions." Jake said nothing. He had been told to stay quiet until the council finished talking. Veltar continued. "Your ships go where they should not go. Your people take risks that put others in danger. You have colonies on worlds that should belong to older species. This cannot continue." Ryan Bell stood next to Captain Harper in the viewing area. He was recording everything with a small device hidden in his jacket. The council did not allow humans to bring recording equipment, but Ryan had found a way to hide it. Earth needed to know what happened here. "The council has decided," Veltar said. "Humanity will give up all military ships. You will stop building new weapons. You will close half of your colonies. You will accept that other species know better than you do." A low sound came from the watching aliens. Some were nodding their heads. Others made clicking sounds with their mouths. They all seemed to agree with Veltar. "You will also pay tribute to the council every year," the alien continued. "Food, metal, and energy. Your scientists will share all new discoveries with us first. We will decide if humans can use them." Jake felt his heart beating faster. This was worse than Earth had expected. The council was not just trying to control humanity. They wanted to make humans into slaves. "If you refuse these terms," Veltar said, "the council will take action. Our fleets are large. Our weapons are powerful. Your species is young and weak. You cannot fight us and win." The chamber became very quiet. Jake could hear his own breathing. He looked up at the viewing area and saw Captain Harper watching him. She gave him a small nod. Earth had already decided what to do. Jake stepped forward. His voice was clear and strong when he spoke. I have heard the Council's demands. I will now give you Earth's answer. Veltar sat back in his chair. He looked sure that Jake would accept the terms. Most species did when faced with the Council's power. The United Earth Federation rejects these demands, Jake said. We reject the Council's right to control us. We will make our own choices about our ships, our weapons, and our colonies. The chamber exploded with noise. Aliens shouted in languages Jake did not understand. Some stood up from their seats. Others waved their arms or tentacles in the air. Veltar's forearms moved quickly as he tried to restore order. You cannot refuse, he said loudly. No species has ever refused the Council. We are refusing now, Jake replied. Humanity will find its own path among the stars. We do not need the Council's permission to exist. Captain Harper smiled as she watched Jake. She pressed a button on her communicator. Across the galaxy, human ships were already getting orders to return to Earth space. This is madness, Veltar said. You will destroy yourselves. Other species will not help you. They know the Council always wins. Jake looked around the chamber. Most of the aliens looked angry, but some seemed surprised. A few even looked interested. Maybe not everyone was happy with the Council's rule. Maybe the Council always won before, Jake said. But they have never fought humans before. He turned and walked toward the exit. Captain Harper and Ryan Bell met him at the door. The three humans left the chamber while aliens continued shouting behind them. On their ship, Captain Harper immediately contacted Earth. Mission complete, she said into her communicator. Morrison delivered the message. The Council knows where we stand. Jake sat down in a chair and took a deep breath. How long do you think we have before they attack? Not long, Harper replied. But our ships are already moving. By the time they decide what to do, we will be ready. Ryan looked at his recording device. This will show everyone on Earth what we are fighting against. The Council thinks they own the galaxy. They are about to learn they are wrong, Harper said. She ordered her crew to prepare for departure. The human ships left Council space as fast as they could travel. Behind them, the Council chamber was still full of angry voices. Veltar was already planning how to punish the humans for their defiance. He had never seen a species refuse the Council's will. It would not happen again. But in the darkest corners of the galaxy, other species heard about what the humans had done. Some began to wonder if they could refuse the Council too. The seeds of rebellion had been planted.